Welcome once again to Old Shoes, and today we're going to talk about penny loafers. These are they called penny loafers because it was thought you could put a penny in there. They've got these strap across the vamp of the shoe or the front of the shoe, and these became fashionable in the mid 1930s when a guy called John Bass started making them. The Norwegian fishermen first wore them, and then he started marketing them in America, and they got to be very popular with Ivy League students, and they thought they could put a penny in there as kind of a spare to make a phone call, and that's why they were called penny loafers. Now, these look a little bit dull there, as you can see, but that's because I've put on some of that Saphir Renovateur because I just wanted to. I've had these for a few months now, 5 or 6 months, so they're also old if you like. Although, yeah, we can have a look at that. And yeah, I'm just a bit careful about the creases here across the vamp, so I'm just gonna put on some of the Renovateur, and now I'm gonna brush it off with this bristle brush. I've got this nice little bristle brush which I've also had for years and years. It's lasted a long time and it's still functioning very well. Okay, so it's coming off nicely. As you can see there, there's hardly any creasing left. I'll do the other one too. I think they need because they're still relatively new. In fact, I mean, for me, 6 months, a 6 months old shoe is almost brand new. They're on 30 years old, so in my book that's new. And we can actually rebox them just now or something. Won't unbox them, but we'll rebox them. I've still got their box here. Okay, but there's quite a story to tell about these penny loafers of mine, because I used to have a very nice pair of church penny loafers, which I also got in the early 90s. In London, there was a big recession at the time. It was the time of the pound crisis and so on. And then I got a pair of loafers there, penny loafers, just like these. Last 93, bookbinder, churches. And I paid only just over £100 for them. In fact, I've still got the box. Here's the box. You can see there. £115. It was marked down from 159, so it was a real bargain at the time. And I had churches, shoe trees inside them, everything. But about 10 years ago or so, they were stolen by a maid. No servants ever touched my shoes, but she spotted them, and they were inside the dust bags and everything with the nice shoe trees. And she stole them, and she probably gave them to her son, who would just destroy them and wear them like every day. And yeah, I mean, it's a real tragedy. And so for years, I've been looking for a replacement, and I looked at the other church penny loafers. But in the meantime, of course, churches have become quite expensive. They were taken over by Prada, and you had to pay €400-500 and even €600 these days for a pair of church loafers. And so I didn't ever get around to replacing them. But then last year in December, I was in the French countryside and I was surfing on the web, and I looked at herring shoes. And there I spotted, they were also on a sale, and I spotted these. They're made in Spain, as far as I know. Quite nice, very well made. Also Goodyear Walted. They haven't got quite a groove for the stitching. I don't know how that's going to turn out, but I've been wearing them a bit, and they still seem to be fine. I had a bit of an accident with them. I was walking around in Clermont-Ferrand, and it was in winter, and there was a bit of ice or frost on the sidewalk, and then I slipped and I fell terribly, and they kind of scratched a little bit here on the side of the sole, if you can see that. It's not really very noticeable, but I kind of know that it's there because I fell that day terribly. So then I had a big, I'm very much against walking around in leather shoes in cities on the sidewalk and so on. That's why I've got a few rubber-soled pairs of boots and so on for that kind of thing, for urban adventures. These are more for driving around your car and maybe just visiting a shopping center or something like that. But here they are, the penny loafers. Very versatile shoe as well. You can wear it with anything, with jeans, with chinos, with even with a suit. I used to wear them. Those old ones, I used to regularly wear them with a suit if they're nice and shiny, like those were. Then they looked quite good with a suit. But I think now I'm going to actually give them a bit of a more shoe cream to make sure that they're well nourished. Put on some of that stuff, the black shoe cream, natural ingredients, and also do the sides where that sole got a few marks when I fell that day. And I really love these loafers. I've also got in fact, I've got a duplicate of those Church's ones, but in suede. But I couldn't quite get my size at the time, and they're slightly small for me. So I've got to wear them with fairly thin socks, like mercerized cotton socks. Otherwise, they're a bit tight. So I'm quite fond of those as well. So you've got your loafers. These herring ones are fairly good, I must say. They're quite hard shoes, I find. They need a bit of breaking in. In fact, these ones are still hard. But I don't mind a hard shoe, with it's a little bit stiff and so on. I think if they are hard and stiff like that, it means they're good quality. And sometimes it's nice to have if you've got a driving shoe that's got to be soft and so on. But a leather loafer like this, being hard and stiff, doesn't bother me much at all. In fact, I've got a pair of Gucci loafers that are also about 15 years old or even older, and they are still hard and stiff. So, but they I've worn them a lot, and they still look pretty good, and they're in good shape and so on. So I think these will also last a long time. These herring ones, made in Spain, probably by the Carlos Santos factory, I would imagine. But they are sold under the Herring brand, the famous online shop. And I browse quite a bit to see, what they've got in terms of English shoes. Although I'm also starting to discover quite a lot of European brands that are interesting in Spain and Portugal and of course Italy. So there you can see now they are starting to get a bit of a shine to them. although I reckon I'm also going to give them a bit of polish just to make sure, because being fairly new shoes, they still need, the leather needs to be treated quite a bit to become more supple and yeah, not so dried out, because when you get a pair of new shoes, they are fairly dry normally. And therefore I'm going to put on some actual wax polish as well. This was now the Saphir shoe cream, and now I'm going to go on to, I mean, I sometimes, when I clean my shoes, there are 4 operations. Sometimes first I clean them with saddle soap, and then just to take off all the grime and old polish and so on. And then I go on to the renovateur to moisturize them and nourish them. And then after that I put on the shoe cream for some more nourishment and penetration into the leather. And only finally, step number 4, do I go on to the polish, you know, to give the shoes that much more protection, and you know, so that they don't scuff so easily. The wax helps quite a bit, but this kind of polish, it also contains nutrients for the shoe. So if you're in a hurry, you can just or if you're traveling, for example, then you can't take all of this stuff with you, and you just have to have a little sort of polish like that you can take along. In fact, I've got a little, I'll show it to you sometime. I've got a little case with 2 brushes in it, and that can also take 2 small tins of polish that I use when I'm traveling around. I'll do the other one now. Just I don't put on a lot of polish because, you know, it accumulates after a while on the shoe, and then you've got problems, because then you got to get the stuff off again. The leather can't breathe. It's not a good idea to kind of plaster it on. Just a little bit is fine. I mean, you know, a tin of polish lasts me a long time. I've got bigger ones here that have lasted, where ultimately, I mean, in fact, the polish just dries out, but I haven't actually used it up. In fact, I can show you. I've got, let's see, I think I've got a tin. Yeah, this black tin which I bought from Shoemaker, or was it in Paris, or it was called Cordonnerie Anglaise. This was their black. Yeah, and as you can see, it's all dried out now. But in fact, even in this condition, I can still use it, because it was such nice polish with natural ingredients and beeswax and so on. So yes, okay, so let's go. We'll give it another brush, the penny loafers, black ones. Yeah, this is a staple. You do need a pair of black penny loafers, definitely. If you haven't got them, make sure you get them. And these were a real bargain. I think they were actually on a sale, and I think I got them for 150 euros or something like that. So I'm very satisfied with them. Apart from the fact that I fell that day in Clermont-Ferrand. In fact, I was looking for a place, well, I was going to go hand in some other shoes for a resale there. There's a young chap there with a shoe Emporium. He sells shoes and he repairs them as well. And it cost me a small fortune to have, because I had some suede, brown suede Oxfords that I wanted to have resold, which he did for me by hand, all by hand, in the same holes and everything. But it cost me an arm and a leg. And I was actually on the way to his shop when I parked, and I was looking. I was walking up the sidewalk to put money into the parking meter when I felt like that, in these shoes. So I don't know what the moral of that story is. Don't, shoes can be dangerous if you're on your way to a cobbler, or maybe the moral is don't put money in the parking meter, because that if I hadn't done that, been such an upright citizen and conscientious, and because I was in a hired car anyway, so even I had to have a parking ticket, they would never find me afterwards. So yes, but then my ribs were sore for weeks afterwards, and I've got the little marks on the shoes to show for it. But yes, so your shoes carry memories. I find that, that's the nice thing about shoes. You remember where and when you wore them. And that way, it's like carrying these souvenirs around with you throughout your life. Maybe go over to the horse's mane for a final bit of polishing. Let's see, and I've also got a sheepskin glove, which I used to use quite often before, but I find sheepskin is a bit overrated. I find this horse's mane brush, it does the trick. But I can show you. This is, in fact, I bought it from that same shop in Paris way back. Shoemaker Cordonnerie Anglaise. Well, it says here since 1885. Wow. I haven't seen them since though. So I can give them a bit of a rub with the sheepskin glove. And I wore them yesterday actually, these shoes. So I'm just gonna, I said I will rebox them or something. I'm gonna put them back in the box and put them away. Sometimes weeks go by and I don't wear my shoes again, because I change them every day. I mean, I firmly believe that you should wear another pair of shoes every day and never the same pair 2 days in a row, because it's not good for the shoes, it's not good for your feet, and it's really boring as well. So unless you're traveling and you've only got one pair of shoes or something, but I always take two pairs, one pair that are in my suitcase and the other one on my feet. So I've always got at least two to wear, even if I'm way in the beyond. So there you go. These herring penny loafers made in Spain, and and you can actually rebox them, and I can put them away. I'll show you. I keep boxes because that's for me the easiest way to to keep my shoes in cupboards and so on, because you can stack them and then it's easier to actually keep them that way in the box. So I'm going to leave the shoe trees inside, and although this box is a bit narrow, so let's see if they'll go in with the shoe trees. They also came with these crinkle paper inserts. Okay, and I mean, herring also gives you two nice dust bags. They can go on top to protect them from the dust. Yeah, and then they're ready to be put away and stored. And yes, tune in next time again for another story about an old pair of shoes, old or not so old. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Click on the subscribe button. Until next time then, goodbye.